Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another live stream covering World Creator 2022. All right, I'm going to create a 4K resolution terrain, and we're going to basically go through the process of transforming this into a stamp. And by doing that, we want to make sure that the borders are relatively flat. That way, when we bring it into World Creator again, or we bring it into Unreal Engine 4 or 5, we can have the edges sort of bleed out quite easily. First thing I want to do, I'm going to create a stamp real quick based on some settings that I kind of started with earlier. So the first thing we want to do, and that is about creating that sort of border blend. We want the edges to be kind of flat, and we can transform this centerpiece any way we want. That way, when we export this height map out, it would essentially be, a blended border. So I'm going to quickly, if I can look at my list here real quick. All right, I think we'll add a couple. I'm going to run through a couple filters here to kind of get things started. Simulation, and then we're going to do something fun with talus here in a second. So I'm going to actually make this talus filter affect more of the lower details instead of these higher ones. And I'm going to lower its percentage down a little bit. And let's change its max height. Let's see, how low can we go here? I'm just going to kind of run through this pretty quickly. There we go. Maybe increase this a little bit. All right, this way I can kind of control the bottom range, and I think that's still a little too much. So we'll lower this just a smidge even more. That way we're kind of ballooning out the edge, but we're not creating so much of a talus. Well, we are using the talus filter, but it's giving us the option to kind of fatten up the bottom range without it being too sharp from that hydraulic filter. So let's keep going on down the list here, which the list you cannot see, but I'm just going to create sort of a run through. All right, ridge flows. We're going to do dry canyon now. But this one, let's do something like this, and let's lower the effect a little bit. All right, just a couple more. Dry and rocky sharp. That way we're going to pop up this top, but you can still see that with these filters added, we kind of still keep that sloped edge, and this sort of adds a little bit of a terraced effect. If you look just ever so slightly right here, there's these streaks, these little terraced streaks. And that's something that I really like for this particular use case. And lastly, I'm going to use the inflate filter. And now this one would be a little weird to use, especially when you see it like this, but I really like these rock effects down here in the bottom range. So we're going to reduce we're going to filter these basically to just affect the lower levels. So add distribution, height. Let's turn on our heat map to see what in the world we're doing. Let's lower this some and increase this range until it gets into the ballpark. So I'm going to lower it a little bit further. Maybe that's too much. Just a smidge more. All right, right there. Let's actually just lower it a tad, and then I'm going to increase the blending a little bit, maybe a little bit more. There we go. That way we have these nice rough pieces, these little rock formations down at the bottom, and we can kind of keep this sort of canyony, rocky top in formation. And then just so that we can have a little bit of clarity, I'm going to put this border blend at the very top of the filter stack so that we can just be comfortable in knowing that that's what is essentially driving the top range. Hope that makes sense. So real quickly, what we've achieved is sort of a canyony, rocky canyon sort of sloped talus. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it not. This is the stamp that we're going to assume that we're using. And so we can blend this a little bit differently if we wanted. If we didn't want this perfect circle, and that may not be the kind of effect that you want whenever we go to bring this back in, of course, we can change the level strengths to adjust how we want the detail to be. If we want to increase a little bit of the lower levels, well, that's not too bad. Typically, if we want the border blend to be 100% flat, we got to increase one of these to 100%. But remember, depending on which one you use, depends on the sort of detail that you're removing from the edge. So right now I'm removing everything from level step 6 and below. So some of this detail will still be there, but it's so minute you can't really tell. All right. Anyway, so to get the circle to not be a circle, we can adjust the border blend range here. If we increase this up, say to around 50%, you see it's blended out closer to the edge. That's probably a little too much. Let's go down to 25%. All right, so now if I were to rotate this sun, maybe make it vertical, you see that our circle is now becoming a rounded rounded square. So it's squared off, but it's a little bit rounded edge. So it's gonna make us feel a little happier in the long run. But maybe we don't like this sort of edge here. So that might be a little too much. So let's go to custom base shape. And I'm going to just select all of these on this edge. I'm going to feather this out some, and I'm just going to lower it. Keep lowering it until it sort of makes an effect. And it's really not doing much. And that's probably because of the subdivision that it's on. Let's see. Yeah, that's what it was. So reset. So whoops. All right, let's try that again. Interesting. It did not keep our edge there. So that's kind of disappointing. Oh, hold on a sec. Let's create this. Go back to here and do 7. There we go. 7 worked. It's a matter of the sort of those, which one is, since we did the subdivision on 6, it's kind of the same range as level step 6. That's a little weird. But I digress. Let's lower this. Let's see if we can't do it this time. And we probably won't because it's... All right. So we're going to delete that. And we're going to do our old trick that we are used to. Add set, mask, create clear. All right, and we are just going to do the brush strength. And I'm subtracting, which is not good. All right, let's add a little bit of this. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I didn't. There we go. Now we're going to subtract. There we go. Now we're removing some information. Put that there, stop editing, and we're getting a little Let's lower that. There we go. So that's, let's do it around -6. All right, that's not quite what I want, but you get the gist. We're just going to really kind of focus on this side. All right, so let's assume that this is going to be our stamp. And we can bring this element here as a height map either in World Creator 2022 or even just World Creator 2. You can bring this height map into anywhere that you want. But we're going to also bring it into Unreal Engine 5. So let me open up my test map here. And I'm going to create a ooh, it's hidden. Anyway, we will load selected cells. All right. All right, so now we're going to export this. So let's go ahead and add, and let's just choose height map just because it's already here. So there's a couple things that some people had questions on how to get grayscale as opposed to this red, the red channel. So let's just do, for sake, do a PNG 16-bit, and we'll do the smallest compression here. All right. The whole thing with the game engine yet doesn't really matter so much because we're going to use this as a stamp instead of importing this as a height map for the landscape actor. So if you don't check this single channel option, while it says it's off, that means it's going to export this height map as an RGB. It's going to populate all 3 channels. If you just want it to be grayscale, you turn on the single channel, and now this is going to export out as a grayscale image. So let me select the folder because I'm going to try to run through some of this stuff real quick. All right, live biomes. I'm going to select that area. And that's the old one. All right, so export selected. It's going to export this out in a moment. There we go. All right, so now let's go to biomes. And this was the 4K version, though this is really big in size, so we're going to reduce that. So now you see that this is well, let me actually, of course, I didn't sign into what I need to sign into. Okay. We're seeing all of, hopefully we don't have any issues. All right, it's loading all of my Creative Cloud apps. So this is going to be, let's just rename this height map 1. That way we can be organized. Okay. So if we like this, that's perfect. Or if we don't like this, we can, switch up the seed any way we want. Maybe we like this. That might be a little too much. Maybe we like that. And the border blend might be a little too much. So we reduce this border blend down a little bit. Maybe we like this. So one thing, actually, that's not bad. Let's go ahead and export this one out. That one's not terrible. Okay. So here we have this one in Photoshop. So if we go to wherever the properties are, you can see this mode is automatically in grayscale and 16 bits. We can also see that in image mode, it's in grayscale and 16 bits. So that automatically converted us to that type of image just by that export. But I'm going to go ahead and export this again because the file size of this is outrageously too large for what we are using. So let's try to export this. Plus, I could always just hide that man chicken in Twitch. I could just make the video not available as well. But I'm not gonna do that because I think it's okay. All right, so we'll do biome 1, ADJ for adjusted. So hopefully that is small enough to use size-wise. It did crunch it a little bit, but that's okay. We're going to be mixing and matching things, so that's fine. So we're going to export this one because we kept the filters. We like how it is. So now we've got this one. So we can rename this height 2. Open with Photoshop. You see the trend here. And I'm just really just doing this so that I can make sure that the file size of this is not crazy. But that's not the main piece that we're going to be doing today. What I want to showcase is a little bit of Map Tiler. Now, Map Tiler is a pretty cool software. I'm going to open up their website here. Of course, this is featuring World Creator. And so it's basically, of course, a lot of people know that Map Tiler is sort of the company that is allowing World Creator to use real world data, DEM data. And it's directly, you can open it up directly into the program. There's a couple different pricing models. There's the free account, the flex account, and the ultimate account. I did at once upon a time have the ultimate, I believe, while we were running through all the trial stuff. But unfortunately, I think I've been diverted to the free account, which has a watermark on it. So I'm planning on doing a full-scale Map Tiler sort of breakdown on YouTube whenever the updated version of World Creator, like the new, the new version of World Creator that everyone's been waiting for. And I've had my taste at it a little bit, but I want to make sure it's some of the kinks are piped out a little bit. Now you can see some of the pricing models here. But yeah, and it's got a little quick tutorial on how to use it and how to set it up. And basically you just go into these locations, your account, your credentials, and once you copy your credential token, you import it, you go to settings and you paste your token right here. Well, I've got your token right here, but I've deleted my token for this case, so you can't copy it. Though it's a very long token anyway, so kudos if you could really copy it, but that token is mine and not yours. Anyway, so unfortunately, let's remove all of these and we'll start with a fresh biome of using Map Tiler. Okay. So let's say you want to use Map Tiler for, oh yeah. Let's say you want to use Map Tiler for just getting some bulk height maps, just some stamped areas that you could use also in World Creator. So that's what we're going to use it here for. You click the little Map Tiler icon and you can see the watermark is right there. It's unfortunate that I have the watermark when I didn't used to have their watermark, but I'll work on getting the accounts upgraded and switched over so that whenever we do these full-scale tutorials, when World Creator comes out with the next version, we won't have this this watermark. But if you have the free account just for testing this out, there will be a watermark, but there are some areas that you can kind of get around the watermark, and I'm going to kind of show that off a little bit here. I don't really want to showcase tricks and stuff, but there are some little tricks. So let's just go to these islands here. Actually, let's go to Iceland and let's try and grab something about right. Let's see. All right. So in order to see Map Tiler, we basically need to go to the Custom Base Shape tab. Hit create. We're going to flatten this because we don't want to use World Creator's generator. We want to use the data from Map Tiler. And then there's this little use Map Tiler on off switch. Click on, and you can change the subdivisions. So if we go to 7, the higher up we go, we see there's the Map Tiler logo or watermark has been stamped in there, but you see that when we were on subdivision 7, it's hidden. But I bet on subdivision 9, it's moved over here. So depending on the subdivision and depending on the data, depends on the resolution of the watermark. So a lower resolution, the watermark will be pushed somewhere else on the map. And a higher resolution, which is closer to the resolution of the DEM data, will present the watermark. It's just kind of hit or miss with the free account, but the free account is supposed to get you to test out the process. And if you really want to use it, the paid service, you should get the Flex account or the Ultimate account. So when I do the full scale tutorials, I'll be sure to have the Ultimate account so that we can kind of pay homage to everything. All right, so let's see, what can we use? Now we could, oh, there is you can see here. So here's a good example. Remember the previous streams, how we talked about glaciers? We can physically see a really cool glacier right here. That's what it seemingly is. This glacier has glided down here over time. You can see the edge of the glacier right here. So in the past 2 streams, we basically are recreating this on sort of a really small scale. Let's say we like this piece right here, and we can increase the height as we're doing here. Let's see what this is doing. And if we change, so the subdivisions are really what's going to drive the detail. If we have a higher the subdivision, the closer to, like I said, the DEM data that we're seeing within the Map Tiler window. But we don't want this watermark here. So let's see what subdivision 7 kind of eliminates it. So let's go back here and reposition it kind of where we want this detail. And then, as you guessed it, we have to recreate sort of that blending effect. So let's go to filters, add filter, border blend. And so remember, now why doesn't this blend the border? Well, if we remember, the subdivision kind of started on level 7. So we need not 7, but level 8. Level 8 is going to crunch everything around it down. So that's sort of the ultimate difference there. So whatever subdivision you have this set to, you have to blend on the level 1 above that. If we were to go down to subdivision 6, we could blend based on subdivision 7. Now, why would you choose? How do you know which subdivision to choose? Well, it's all sort of a pro and con. How much of the DEM detail here do you want transferred over into the filters? Now, this could be a little weird. So, especially whenever you want all of this data and you don't want to have to compromise on anything. So here's one way that we can go about doing that. So we're going to, where is this? We're going to delete this, and we're going to delete this. All right. Well, actually, so let's create a second biome. And this biome is going to inherit the filters, and it's going to add to. All right, so we're going to create this. Oh, this is based on the Map Tiler here. So we're going to remove that, create this, and flatten. And flatten. So we got 2 different biomes. The second biome is adding information on top of the global biome. So we want the second biome, I believe, if I remember doing this right, we want the second biome to be the DEM data. So let's just pick a new spot just for fun. How about I want something with a little bit more of a peak. And we're gonna get there, guys, I promise. All right, let's do this one right here. Oop, there's the logo there. That information's not quite what I want. Let's see. We're gonna get there, I promise. You guys are probably thinking, get on with it already. We need some drastic transformations. Here we go. This has some pretty good information. Okay. So what we could do now, let's go to the global biome and then add our border blend, and let's see what happens. Technically, we should be seeing, well, the border blend kind of takes precedent. It's kind of a drastic incline there. But yeah, you get the idea. And what we're going to do now, so we got sort of the general shape of this, but let's go ahead in this one and start adding some of our details back in. We'll make this one a distribution at the top a little bit. So there we go. That one's kind of interesting. Look how much detail it's added in the crevices. So a lot of this information is still, this sort of height information is being driven by the DEM data. And we're just adding information on top of it. Even though the data is kind of overwhelming in some cases, that's okay. We're just gonna make it up as we go. So let's say, just for instance, we like this. So now let's go ahead and just export this height map. But let's recreate, what do we call it? All right. So we're going to export this selected one again. as a single channel. And just waiting for that to, there we go. All right, so what did that look like? So here we are. It's still, this one's also pretty big. And you see it's also grayscale 16 bits. So let's export this to be a smidge smaller. And I'm hoping that still a meg is small enough. Okay. So, of course, we can go through all the pipelines of taking this, going somewhere else in the world just as easily, you know, anywhere we want to create different elements altogether. Maybe we like this. Or maybe we like this. So it's just a matter of trial and error, seeing which areas you like. Maybe we like a little island. So this is kind of a cool little smidge piece there. Actually, that's looks really nice. So maybe we will just export this selected. If you guys have any questions about the jargon that I'm just throwing out at you, please feel free to ask. All right, we'll do this one more time and then we can get on to the other fun parts. So again, I would love to show off, I would love to show off more of a map tiler, but I feel like I did not realize that my account had switched over. So we're going to have to fix that so that when I do the official stream, we will have a better grasp on things without the watermark, and we can have a little bit of a higher res image to work with, because I think I'm just working with low res data, and with a account, the ultimate account, I believe you have high res data. I'm working on a version of World Creator that you guys don't have right now. So I think like even this download full res option doesn't really quite work yet. I'm not 100% sure, but let's get to the part that is pretty fun. So, all right, so there's two different ways we can go about using World Creator or these height maps. So the first thing that we can do is we can use the stamps within World Creator, and the second thing we can use these stamps for is in Unreal Engine 4 directly. So just use World Creator, whether you're using Map Tiler or you're creating terrains to create little alpha mask stamps. And we can utilize those here easily within the program. So let's say we want to, okay, this terrain is fine, I guess. So let's go to filter. And so in order to add a stamp, and we've done this many times on previous streams as far as using details, we just go to design, height map, and then we can do the operation to add, which will add information on top of the terrain as is. If we do subtract, it'll reduce. If we do set, which is really cool, we'll do set. And then the max and min values. So let's go ahead and import a height map here. Let's see, let's go to live, biomes, and let's choose the first height map one adjusted that we did here. So if we were to create a custom base shape and flatten, so this is flattening will just seemingly make it completely flat. We added a height map, and remember, this is sort of the shape of the height map that we had in the very beginning. If we wanted the full resolution of that, we start increasing these levels, but I think 4K is one of these levels. The compression is a little weird, and we can increase the height scale. Of course, we can see if the compression turned out weird, and I did this on purpose for this example, especially with, let's go to level step 11. Aha, so this is looking very, very weird. And, if you come across this issue, it has to do with, when I exported this out from Photoshop, I think it did some funky jargon. If we were to import the non-adjusted one, let's see it. It still did the same thing. So the jargon is from World Creator. So there is some weird export stuff going on. But have no fear. If you find yourself in this situation, you could lower it a little bit, and that may still not what you want. Lower it to 9, and it looks a little bit less, and you can add filters on top of this. Which is the point. So if we went to level step 11, added a filter, and we can sort of do this by denoise. So the denoise, let's just crank all these down. So the height map was on level step number 11. So let's see if we denoised level step 11. So that wasn't enough. Let's try 12. All right, so 12 did a little bit, but we have some information there. 13 did a little bit, and 10 did a little bit. So let's remove these and see what 10 does and go from there. So this is not ideal whatsoever. We are basically denoising everything, and that's terrible. But, we could always add noise back, especially if we wanted to. Let's see. Let's remove this level. And then we can probably add some canyon detail back, though the problem is we've denoised everything. There's another sophisticated way of denoising, and I remember we did this once before. And now I can't remember for the life of me how. I think it was the roughness filter we did that with. Are you going to export this in Unreal? We're not going to necessarily export the terrain itself, but we are going to use Unreal to stamp some stuff. We're going to go through and import some alpha stamps, some of these alpha stamps. So this isn't what I want. Let's try going here. So the whole point of bringing this height map in is so that we can set an area so that we can design the space. Blend a little bit, blend roundness, blend size. So here, let's just blend that in. Now we have a stamp seemingly within World Creator. And what we could do is, okay, so we like this. If you don't like it, well, we can change things, but we can add another filter, another design, another height map. We can add, let's try adding in this guy. All right, we will add him. And then we will make sure the area is enabled. We don't want this person to have a height scale too big, so maybe it's this kind of detail. Maybe we want to subtract. And let's see, where is, here we go. Maybe we want it to be a circle. And the blend radius, or where's the smoothness? I know there's a scale here. We will reduce this effect some and say we wanted to do this. So we can add multiple height maps to create new detail. And then on top of that, we could create, additional detail. So we've imported 2 different height maps here, and now we're just going through and adding extra detail on top of it all. So we can create multiple terrains or stamps within World Creator and then import those in as height maps in order to design a space or design an area. If we wanted to, let's see, combination, If we wanted to add in addition to, we can set the combination to max, and we can add this instead of reducing it. So setting it to max will increase these pieces. So let's increase this. Maybe we like this to be blended down a little bit. Maybe we want it to add. Oh, well, it added a whole lot there. So we can also double right click and duplicate this. Rotate. Scale that down, and we can, and basically just keep adding stamps on and on. What's the scale you're using? Looks like Unreal uses, let's see, what World Creator use? Oh, let's see, you mean Unreal uses centimeters. Is that what you mean? Yeah. So World Creator by default uses meters. And of course, Unreal by default uses centimeters, which I don't quite like. And I know we can go into project settings, units, and change this to meters. And it should, well, I think you have to restart things for the scale to kind of pop back for it to work, but that's all right. Okay. So we've got this. So we understand the concept of stamping, I hope, within World Creator. See, it's pretty cool. We can spend all day just creating stamps and then plugging more in. Let's just do another one. Do a height map. None. Let's see. We did the second one. Remember this second one here. And let's make this an area. And let's say we wanted this operation to, well, let's just make it, let's just set it to add as well. That's fine. We can do min. Oh, we don't like min. Let's do max. And do this. And let's say we like this piece to be over here. We'll do a height scale. So this side is extremely rocky. Maybe we stretch, I'm rotating. Maybe we stretch this out. So we're just adding stamps together, basically to create endless fun. Add mud, add some more erosion. How about some thin flows? Well, that's not too, let's do soft flows, wide flows, rocky or terraced. We could terrace the whole thing. And the reason why this works is because we're using, the reason why I would recommend using map tiler to create the height map, the initial height map export, is because we can then import that height map into here at whatever resolution. And then because the combination is max or min or whatever, we're not going to lose any information from that original height map. We're adding information on top of. So it's a little bit of a tricky substance or tricky sort of direction, but it gets the point across. Let's say denoise. We could denoise the whole thing, distort everything, inflate, balloon everything. So we have a lot of pipelines that we could work through. All right, so before we get to ending here, let's now just take some of these stamps and maybe we like this one. Maybe we like this one. So let's go ahead and do the border blend here. Yeah, let's say we like this. And that's probably a little smooth, so we'll save this for a second. So we don't have enough time for another piece that I want to showcase, but maybe I can showcase it in a little bit. So I'm going to have alpha brushes here. So I'm going to open up the biomes here. So we're going to import the height map 1 adjusted, the height map 2 adjusted, height map 3 adjusted, and height map 4 adjusted. So, and so to add a stamp in Unreal, we're going to go to the mode and change it to landscape mode. All right, so the landscape mode is really cool. So we could, let's see, let's go through here. There we go. So what I could do, if we wanted to, we could, play around and sculpt any way we want within Unreal Engine. And so this is sort of the kind of thing that the smoothness that I wish World Creator as editing tools were. I mean, this is very smooth, and I just created a hand. But it's not quite there yet, and I believe there's more editing tools coming to World Creator to kind of help do this. But we could spend hours creating sculpting like this and then exporting this height map if we like into World Creator. And if you guys want to see that, let me know. We can sculpt a height map here in Unreal, export the height map, and then import that height map into World Creator. Beautify it up a little bit with some details, re-import that back into here. And maybe that's an example or a time that I can kind of showcase the bridge tool. There's only a couple instances where I like the bridge tool and I think it works well. But other cases are going to be a little bit different as far as how I would prefer to import a terrain in here. And so we're definitely going to cover that not next Monday, but there's going to be a weekend where we cover height maps exported or as a landscape in Unreal. I know a lot of people are after that, so that's a big goal. Anyway, so to add a stamp, we need to be in the sculpt tool. And here's the brush type. So the brush type that I'm using is this circular brush as is, but we can click this icon here to basically use a texture. And that texture here again is these height maps. So hopefully it works this time. There we go. So how big were these? Because before I'm not sure what the limit is. These are about 1 point something megabytes. So there's a limit to sort of the size texture that will be imported into this slot. And I hit it earlier and I'm not quite sure what it is. All right. So the brush size max is basically 8192 centimeters. So this is technically, I believe, 8 point. I believe that's how it is. No, that shouldn't be the case. Well, regardless. So even though this brush size here is 8192, we could increase this, say, manually to 20,000. And we can also manually increase the tool strength to something like 3. And I'm going to turn off auto rotate because otherwise you can see it kind of moves around, which maybe you like that. Maybe you can click, 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 and it'll stamp. And then so I'm going to also show you, I know I'm kind of rambling, the differences between the used clay brush and the not used clay brush. All right. So I'm going to have it off right now. I'm just going to click once. All right. And you see that kind of pasted a little too much. Let's do 2 here. 2. And I'm getting a weird border, so I think that's it having converted to sRGB, but don't worry about that. The height's a little weird. That's one thing the tool strength can do. But let's use the use clay brush and click right next to it. and it looks about the same. But before, well, I had something a little bit different before. Wow, hold on. Well, if you hold it, you get wild stuff. Let's auto rotate and let's see. We could do this, and that's not what we want either. The whole point is that we can use the tools, we can use stamps to kind of paste our pattern here any way we want. And so that border is a little weird. I don't know why. Was that border weird? Let's use this one and see if this border. All right, that one doesn't have a border. So the other one did. I'm going to flatten everything. Go back to sculpt. Yeah, this one doesn't have a border, so we can seemingly click around and we can kind of shape some stuff up. Well, that one does kind of have a border. That is sort of the height range I think I had from Photoshop, exporting it out to be a different size. The reason why I brought it into Photoshop, because the file size, this file size was way too large for like 9 megs. I wouldn't be able to import this. See, it won't, that file size is too high. So I'm not quite sure what was going on there. Let's try this one. So this is just a way to, get information on there. So I obviously need to blend my borders a little bit better, but you get the idea. So we are basically just creating stamps through this method. Does that make sense? I know this edge here is a little wonky, but I mean, we can always smooth those unattractive edges a little bit, because the rest of it was fine. It's just those really low edges kind of didn't work too well for us. Now, this is sort of the destructive way to do it, and I'm going to make sure like our areas here between the terrains are rather smooth, because we're kind of faking in sedimentation. But there's another method of doing stamps, and it's the method that I like the best. And we might do that next week, potentially. I'm actually going to create the Faroe Islands just north of Great Britain. And we will bring that into Unreal, but we're going to use stamping, not with this way, but we're going to stamp based on a blueprint. And that way it's non-destructive. See, us stamping right here is a bit of a destructive method. Once you click, once you click, I'm just using that weird height map. It's adding information, but we don't get to then select. I could probably select this area here. I actually haven't used this before because there's a lot of tools. And ramp that. Nope, wrong thing. Oh, okay, never mind. We're not going to use that. So the whole, where's the selection? Clear region select. All right, so the whole point is that these stamps are really good. We can go through the process of stamping all of these as much as we want, but at the end of the day, they are destructive. You can't then select a region from or select the stamp that you've made and scale it up or down. There are a lot of new tools in the landscape actor here that I'm probably not copy and paste areas. So if I were to then select areas, copy data around the gizmo, so there's areas that I could copy and then paste. I'm pretty sure that's how select worked, but we can copy, fit, but we're not going to do that today. But there's a much better way, and that is alpha stamps by blueprint. That way we can drag and drop from our content browser here a blueprint that has a alpha map applied to it. We can drag that over and then basically stamp the terrain just like you would in World Creator. And just like you could in World Creator, we can establish that that stamp has an area. So within here, we could change the boundary area of that stamp. We can increase its height, decrease its height. We can make it add or subtract. So just like in that, just like the areas here for our World Creator file, we could do the exact same thing with Unreal Engine. So we can move around these stamps and pretty much do anything we want. I need to remove that. There we go. So I hope that makes sense. Do you guys have any questions? Because we are a few minutes over an hour. Well, we've been running for about an hour now. So I'm going to exit out of this. And you guys let me know if you have any questions, whether it's in World Creator or Unreal Engine. And I'll let it keep going there for just a few minutes. Maybe I will play around with this some. Just by stamping, I mean, we've got a very interesting terrain here. And maybe I don't like this edge over here. Maybe we need to smooth this edge out here and make them rolling hills. So this is some of the tools that I wish that World Creator had. Some of these blending tools here. So just real quick, we kind of done this. All right, question. Is there any plugin for World Creator to export to Unreal directly? Yes, there is. All right, so on the World Creator website, go to log in, and I want to make sure that, password automatic. Let me make sure that the jargon is appropriate. Okay. So in your World Creator user dashboard page under downloads, under World Creator 2022.2, there is this Unreal Engine 5 and Unreal Engine 4 bridge. So you can download those. There's the requirements and all that stuff. So when you download those, you have to basically the zip file, and we'll probably do this on the next stream. Actually, we should probably just showcase how to do this. You click this, you download it, and this zip file, you unzip it, and you put it into your Unreal Project add-on folder. And so whenever you do that, it should come up as it should come up as an additional item right here as a World Creator button. And then once you do that, once you put those together and you have a blank project open right here within World Creator, you have World Creator and Unreal Engine open at the same time. So say you wanted to export this directly to Unreal Engine. And let's just say, you've got some you've got some dirt and stuff applied to it. I'm just gonna do this real quick, just for. I mean, this is a terrible thing. Thing real quick. Just wanted to showcase this sort of preliminary example. Wow, that's a terrible circumstance. Well, just this is a terrible color job here, but let's just say you wanted to export this directly to Unreal. As long as you have Unreal open and you have World Creator open and you have that little icon where World Creator is right here plugged in, you hit this synchronize button and it'll run through the process of basically importing this directly into Unreal. You'll get the terrain size. It should come up as a landscape actor, just like these. And you will get the option if you want to enable world partition for the landscape, or if you want the landscape to be one whole thing. But I would highly encourage you import it as world partition so that you can. It's just better. You have to use world partition. It's just like the way to go. The only caveat is that when it's exported, this color here will be a single texture, and that's okay. There's a use case for this terrain being exported as a single texture, and it'll appear on your terrain in your content browser as a single landscape texture. That's not the way that I'm going to teach you how to do it as far as walking on the terrain, but for a terrain that is a vista or a background terrain or a mid-ground terrain, the bridge tool I think will work fine because you're never going to actually access it. Like if I were walking here and you wanted a terrain to be imported into Unreal, like a background terrain, that's when I think the bridge tool is ideal, and we'll cover all that process for sure. There's actually there's a couple people that have posted videos, I think, on the bridge tool and their setup process, and it seemed to work pretty well. And I think there's information in the change log on where to post that file. So with that, I'm not going to save anything that I just did there, and yeah, so this was the quick and dirty method of using map tiler or using custom shaping the terrain as height maps and as stamps in order to design a terrain. This isn't the first time I've had a stream covering this method. It's just a lot of people miss streams, so I'm making this one specific to this process. Sweet. Well, with that, thank you all for coming and joining. We will be hosting another live stream next week. The goal next week is probably to create something from the Faroe Islands because there's a really unique sort of texturing method that I want to showcase on the Talus filter and the Terrace filter. We're going to talk about the Terrace filter quite heavily and how to break up its uniformity. It is highly uniform right now, but its uniformity does work great in certain instances like quarries or certain landscapes, which is a weird natural phenomenon. But we're going to talk about how to make it blend in well, and we're going to talk about how to make it irregular if you want a little bit of irregularity in the terrace filter without it looking too squared off, basically. That's what we're going to talk about a week from today. So again, thank you guys so much for joining, and I'll see you next week.